Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Arzum Akkas. I'm an assistant professor in the Operations and Technology Management Department here at Questrom School of Business. I've been here at BU for 5 years. I teach the core operations management course, and I'm scheduled to teach a new elective this coming spring semester about environmentally sustainable supply chains. We are very fortunate to have Lucy Halperin Zaro as our Questrom Insights guest today. Lucy is a Questrom alumna of 1977 and served on BU's Board of Overseers for 10 years. After graduating from Questrom, she ran and owned an olive oil business for 30 years. Once this business was sold in 2015, she started mentoring young women entrepreneurs. She helped a startup chain of bakeries, an ice cream company, and finally Sweet Loren's, an all-natural fresh cookie dough company. She is now an investor at Sweet Loren's and also the full-time chief operating officer. A little bit about Sweet Loren's. It is now the third highest selling fresh cookie dough company in the US and can be found in over 12,000 supermarkets, including Whole Foods, Publix, Kroger, you name it. I personally get it from Instacart Wegmans. The fudgy chocolate flavor is my favorite. Lucy is going to give us a discount code at the end of the webinar, which we can use for online purchases directly from company's website. So please bear with us. Before I start the conversation with Lucy, let me clarify a few housekeeping items. We're going to have an interactive session, so please post all your questions in the chat box here in the Q&A box throughout the webinar. I'll have a few questions to Lucy, and after that, I'll turn it over to the audience. All right. Again, we're so lucky to have Lucy with us today. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this, and it's nice to meet you finally. I'm interested in hearing what the kids have to ask me, because it's really it's a great adventure that being involved with Sweet Loren's, and especially after my full career with olive oil and olives is quite different than olive oils and baking goods. So it's really just I'm happy to share my experience with everyone.
Thank you. So let me first ask you about Sweet Loren's. When was it found, and how did you get involved, and how did you manage to get your product distributed at 12,000 stores?
So Loren is the CEO and founder of the business, Sweet Loren's, and I met Loren actually when she already had some distribution. So she says that she started actually around 2012, actually after she graduated college from the West Coast. She came home actually to pack up and move back to the West Coast, but unfortunately she came back and she found that she was sick with cancer and had to go under treatment for a whole year. And, doctors, all they do is talk about treatment, treatment, chemo. Loren was really interested about nutrition. What can she do better with herself? How can she keep more healthy, more clean? So on her own, she decided to pursue that. She already had this sweet tooth. She worked at a local bakery in New York. And she was really concerned about eating clean at this point in her life. She really wanted to change her lifestyle. She's very entrepreneur minded. She was great networker, loved meeting people, loved going and joining events. And so she, when she went to the supermarket to buy some sweet products, she couldn't find anything that she would want, because when you read the ingredients on a package, half of it you don't understand. Yeah. And so she was really concerned about that. So she, on her own, with passion, real passion and real devotion, she went back to her small kitchen in her apartment and started to fool around with recipes and became knowledgeable about ingredients. And she studied it, and she took nutritional costs, and she whipped up this cookie dough. And then she started to share it with friends and family, and everybody raved about it. And mind you that the product was much different back then than it is today. And she came up with a cookie dough, and she just, started to win awards. She got on the Today Show. She was invited to events to speak about her journey. And at that time, she really didn't have much distribution, had a few local Whole Foods, but she really had quite a different product back then.
Loren started in 2012, you said. And look at
but her real distribution began, as you can see, in 2016. So 4 years of developing a product. to
Mhm.
sell in the supermarket. It wasn't overnight, you know?
Yeah. So
It
how
was a
did you,
different, it was also a different packaging. It was more in the frozen department, and then that didn't work for her. So she had to keep on changing, you know, she never gave up. And she
Mhm.
finally hit gold. I mean, you can just see by these numbers, these revenues.
Yeah, when did you
Um,
join along this time?
I joined around 2016.
2016.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, what is behind this success? Look at this growth chart. Like what did change from year to year that made you distribute at 12,000 stores eventually?
So we started, actually, which is very unusual, we started with tier one stores. And what we mean by tier one stores, the really big stores, like the
Mm,
Publix and the Kroger.
mhm.
So it's a great story. Loren was actually at a Chobani event, and a woman came up to her and says, "This product is fantastic. You got to get distribution out there. I can help you."
I,
And she said, "I can get you an appointment at Publix." And of course, Loren, who she is, says, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And Loren at that time really didn't know much about the food business.
what kind of
So
event was this, you said?
what?
What kind of event was this?
It was like a Chobani event. It was a
Chobani event.
networking entrepreneur. It
I
was an
see.
entrepreneur event.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these big companies have these entrepreneur events, you know, so
I
they can, so that's a big thing with Chobani.
mm,
So Lauren gets an appointment at Publix with a buyer, and she walks in with a plate of warm cookies. The buyer tastes it and says, "This is amazing. Like, where have you been? This is a, yeah, this is
that's
a
what I'm
declining,
saying.
a declining category. Nobody's going to it. It's controlled by General Mills and Nestle,
Yes.
and there's nothing been new in the category. And
Mm-hmm.
and the buyer just asked, like, "Can you handle the capacity?" And of course, Lauren, who she is, says, "Sure, of course I can."
Uh-huh.
And which is very unusual with Publix to take this risk. They gave Lauren 100% distribution in 1,200 stores,
Wow.
and that
And it
never
happened,
happens at Publix.
and it happened in 2016.
This was in 2016.
And it accelerated the growth, other
And
retail
then
stores.
yeah, and then we did the same thing with Kroger. Now Kroger has, I don't know, 24 or 20, I can't remember the number,
Mhm.
2,500 stores. And the same reaction there. They gave us full distribution. So overnight, we had over 3,000, you know, stores.
I see. So what is
So
an
we already had a
untapped
story, you know,
mm-hmm. So
and,
what is
and
an untapped market for you right now? Where else do you want to get in?
what other markets?
Yeah.
Well, in other countries you're talking about,
No,
or?
in the US.
So we really hit well with the retailers. You know, we're looking at other distribution channels, you know, food service channels, restaurant channels, convenience stores channels, you know, small cafeterias. Uh, there's so many options, you know, it's really, you know, we have a whole, and then other countries, you know, Canada, already started on Canada, we're in Loblaws now. So, yeah, that's really our focus is other distribution channels now. And also we have a lot to do with retail. I mean, 12,000 isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that there's over 28,000 retailers in America.
28,000. I see. So
Yeah.
you are like maybe 1/3 of the
Yeah,
market.
but
Yeah.
we're in the
Well,
top ones. You know, this is where you really want to start. As you can
I,
see, there's, you know, we're in Target, we recently got into Whole Foods
mhm,
nationally, Safeway stores, those are all big retailers out there.
mhm.
Um, Ahold, which is giant, and Stop and Shop in your area.
Let's talk a bit about the product. You use all clean ingredients. What is the clean and how different is your product from your competitors?
So, good question. So, you know, originally our product wasn't allergen free.
Mhm,
Originally, our product was just clean ingredients, you know, whole grain, you know,
mhm.
cane sugar, just really kind of clean and easy to digest. What happened was, and it wasn't gluten free. Now our product is, you can see here, I don't know if you can see it here. It's actually, I can open it up. I can actually show you that there are 12 discs in the package, and it's raw dough. And what you do is you can see here, You heat up the oven to around 325. You put the dough in on a pan in a warm oven at around 325. You put it in for 12 minutes, depending on your oven, and out comes a warm, delicious cookie. Part of Sweet Loren's success is that we're for everyone. Yes, we're allergen-free, we're gluten-free, we're dairy-free, we're nut-free, we're non-GMO, but we're for a family that if a kid has an allergy, they can enjoy it or not. If you don't have an allergy, you can enjoy it. It's just our main priority was that it was delicious, and it is delicious, as you know.
So there are 2 more slides here. I want to show them to the audience. This is comparing.
So this is our competition here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see we're competing against, quite a big companies. Actually, there's Annie's and Immaculate is owned by General Mills.
Mm-hmm.
And these are companies claiming for clean ingredients, but when you look at their packaging, it's not really clean. I think one is is it Annie's is organic. I think they have an organic, or maybe it's Immaculate that has an organic.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Nestle, and then there's Pillsbury. And I just can't see the one.
So this is for the cookie, and we have some.
Now you can see all the attributes that we list here. And we keep on trying to perfect it. Like originally we had soy in our chocolate, and we were hearing from consumers, can you get it without it? Can you eliminate this? Is there any corn derivatives? Anything that we could eliminate to make this an allergen-free product, but keep in mind, we really want to keep it delicious and affordable. We don't want to be priced in a situation where it's not affordable for everyone. Yeah. So we want, all different types of people to be able to enjoy it.
How do you
get
feedback snack from consumers? What is your channel to receive the feedback?
I'm sorry.
How do you get this feedback from the consumers? What kind of channel do you have to receive feedback?
Well, a lot through, we have a hello email, Sweet Loren's email. People can reach us on our package. We have a website, or we have an email that they can contact us. So we constantly hear about our consumers, what they want.
So my next question is about operations. Since I'm an operations management professor, I have to ask you about operations. Can you give us an overview about your network? Like how many manufacturing facilities you have, how many distribution centers, and how do you distribute your products to 12,000 stores from there? Sure.
So it's really very simple, which makes it nice. We don't have a lot of products. We have 4 SKUs of the place and bake. We have about 2 of our newly launched one is a mini cup. So it's, you can take it home and have it for lunch, or bring it in your lunch box and enjoy it. So we have an edible cookie dough. All our product, by the way, is safe to eat raw. There's no eggs in there. So, you can eat it raw out of the package. So it's, we have a factory, one factory that produces all this. And what we do is we have three distribution centers in America, 1 distribution center in North America, Canada. We're looking at another one out West Coast, because as our business grows out West, we got to think of efficiencies. Yeah. So right now it's very simple. Trucks pick up the product at the warehouse, deliver to our distribution centers, and then we get orders from our customers. Our customers are then receive the product from the distribution center.
So how is very quick. So is this manufacturing facility owned by you, or is it a contractor?
It's a co-packer.
Co-packer, I see. So how does the sales channel look like? Who sells the product to the
So our team, our sales team. So it's the woman that actually helped Loren get into Publix. She's part of the team.
Nice.
Yeah, she was involved in this. Great woman, very just very passionate, and has done a terrific job in getting these 12,000 stores. I mean, she has really plowed through. I don't think she missed a boat. Every retailer that she has presented to definitely they take a minimum of 2 items.
I
Um,
see. So you don't work with third-party sales brokerage firms?
Yes, so we do
You do.
work with a national broker, yes.
I see.
And we also have another salesperson that works on the independent stores
I see.
with the distributors.
Mm-hmm. So my
Oh,
next question is about starting the process of starting a food company. And let's say I have this great idea about some chocolate product.
mhm.
I don't like what I find in the market, and like, how do I go about it in terms of production, distribution, getting funding, sales? Like, what are the different steps that
Yeah.
I need to
So,
go on?
so just remember that what you started with is not what you're going to end up with.
Okay.
So it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has to go through the journey. You have a dream, you're in the kitchen, but then when you go to the next phase, it might not be the right product for that distribution channel. So then you
Mm-hmm.
have to go back to the drawing board. So you have to go through a lot of that.
I see.
Um, you
So
know,
how many times did you change the recipe in the last 4 years?
oh, we just changed it
Oh,
all the
really?
time, all the
Uh-huh.
time. We just want to keep on perfecting it. We want to make it better.
Okay.
So, we just did it with the edible cookie dough. We wanted to be more creamier and richer, so we had to work on that. So it was, challenging, but we seem to get it done.
So the constant improvement of the recipe is one aspect to it.
Right, right.
So like, well, let's say you perfect the recipe in your kitchen, that's where you start, right? So what is the next step? Like, it
So,
can be scalable, let's say. It may, for a few dozens of batches, it
yeah,
may work.
I wouldn't say it's mostly at home now. It's sharing it with your friends and family and your
Okay,
local community,
okay,
so you can get feedback. You really need that feedback because what you think is unbelievable, and I'm sure it is, might not be for the consumer.
right, right,
So you really want to get to know the consumer organically as best as you can.
okay,
So that I really feel very important. Like I have another friend who's starting a startup business, and he's so eager to go out to the retail. I said, slow down. Let's not rush this. You need
yeah,
to spend at least a year just doing this local stuff, delivering it to your friends, let them try it, try different ingredients that might work better. Try to figure out ways to keep the cost down because, it's very competitive out there. I mean, we're
right.
competing against, quite a big companies, General Mills and Nestle. So, yes, we can demand a little higher price, but we can't be, 3 times as more expensive. So we got to watch our cost.
So the number one step is to make sure that your recipe is perfect enough, or
Well,
perfect,
perfect enough. It will never be perfect because it will always will
perfect
be
enough.
changing.
So
Perfect
then what do
enough.
you do? Like, let's say I'm at the,
Okay, let's say you get to the point where, you've been showing it to your friends and family and, and distribution's a pain in the neck because you're hand delivering it. And so you want to, go through a fulfillment and you're tired of baking. So you got to find a factory. You got to find a
that's the next
co-pack.
step. You find a co-packer, and
You
then
find a co-pack, and there's so many co-packers out there. I
I see.
mean, there are a lot. It depends what type of product you have too. So, you can find you can find a factory, and you have to kind of sit down with them because they have different requirements,
I
they
see.
have minimums. They have to buy
Uh-huh.
ingredients, they have to have the right machinery, and you have to be flexible to what they can do. So it's kind of a, back and forth, process
I
to
see.
figure out what you can do and eventually you have to compromise, and hopefully the co-packer will be flexible, because it's a risk for them,
I see.
to,
So that's the next milestone, basically, like marry with a co-packer. Do you change co-packer along the way? Do you have
we
to?
have changed co-packers. Yes, we have.
I see. You may ask.
And I'll tell you a story about it. It's
Okay.
interesting. So when we first started to get distribution, we were not a gluten-free, allergen-free product. And our big customer came back to us and said, can you create a gluten-free product? And of course, who we are, we say, of course. So we go back to the kitchen and tweak the recipe, and we came up with a recipe. but our current supplier would not commit to doing a gluten-free product because it's a big investment for a major company to do. I mean, you have to really have a separate line, you have to have a whole different protocol. It's very strict. So they weren't willing to do that because maybe they felt we couldn't produce enough volume. So through my networking and Loren, we found a allergen-free bakery, and they didn't make the product at the time. They were, and they said, well, we're willing to try it. So they put together whatever equipment they had and produced it. And we brought it into our largest supplier. And in 3 months, it became our #1 item.
I see.
So the three of us, the three girls, we sat back and said, we have something here. Why compete against the big guys? Why don't we do something that we have our own niche? That's something that's different. And so we eliminated our line across the board, left our current co-packer and went with a new co-packer. So sometimes you have to make these decisions.
So in the meantime, you're working on sales in parallel.
In parallel, always, because sales is revenues is key.
So how is the funding situation going on in parallel with all this?
So when we first started, we were a typical startup company, starving for cash. I didn't sleep a lot of nights. I wore many hats back then too. I was handling the finances, I was doing the operations, the relationship with co-packers, which was sort of fun in the startup because that's what you do. You're on for 24/7. And so we figured it out, after hard work. I mean, it is hard work to start up a startup business, many fail.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How did COVID-19 impact your business? Did you run into supply issues or logistical challenges?
We actually had some issues, of course, because nobody predicted this. We didn't, our inventory method was much different, and we were turned over inventory very quickly. So we didn't have a month's inventory in. So what happened with COVID is, baking became very hot.
Yeah.
And our sales went through the roof, which was great in one sense because, it brought more brand awareness. That is really, if you ask me, the question was our biggest challenges is brand awareness.
So stress on operations, how do we keep up with this demand?
So with operations, so we were really, I've been in the business for years. The salesperson was in business for years. So we were new at this, So we had to come up with an allocation procedure. We didn't want to cut anybody's order completely, and we didn't. It so happened our factory had to close down for 2 weeks. So we were, minimally out of product less than 2 weeks.
Before the pandemic, how many days of supply did you have?
Below 20 days.
Below 20 days, and then how quickly did you?
It took a while to get back because once the factory reopened, we first had to, get product to our customers. So what came in the distribution centers went out. So we had no inventory. It took, at least over a month to really build up the inventory. And now, because we're still in COVID period, we have, we're not doing 20 days now. We've doubled our inventory.
I see.
In the warehouses, just in case.
Were there any supply issues in the market? Like you couldn't find any palm oil or like any other?
The palm oil we had no issues with. The flowers, there were some issues. It was just they were just a little behind schedule, but we put a lot of pressure on them, and it was like as soon as the flour came in, it went right to the mixer. I see. But they were terrific. They really upped the ante here. I mean, we had to produce a lot more. They doubled their capacity. They put on a second line. They really just, did everything possible to help us during this period. So we have, very lucky. We have a great partnership.
I see. So pandemic was good for your business, basically.
It was.
It was good for you.
Yeah, I hate to say that, but it really was. People really, people were at home. What are they going to do?
Right.
they're going to bake. As you said, flour was out of stock. And so how easy it is to, put a puck in the oven and come out a warm, delicious cookie. So people really took to it. And
Exactly.
also interesting was that, our competition was out of stock. So a lot of people would go to the area and say, well, I can't find anything. Well, what's this? Sweet Lawrence. Well, I'm going to
Right.
try it.
Yeah.
So that happened too.
Um, so what is like waiting for Sweet Lawrence for the next 5 years? Um, so looking at the previous 5 years, you had a great growth, and like did it was it something that you expected? Did it go according to
Well,
plan?
we
What
really
are
planned
you
for
doing?
it. So
Mm-hmm.
the last 3 years on that graph that you saw, those were planned. Those were,
Mm-hmm.
that we knew what we were going to do and what our goals were.
Mm-hmm.
And we achieved them beautifully. Getting the distribution in all those supermarkets, and we're still working on that. We still have a lot more to do. But we have the big ones and that really move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the chains we really have to, really work with to grow the brand, to grow I keep on mentioning brand awareness. It's really very
Yeah.
important, so we're trying to spread that word now. And this is the first year we're actually starting to do some marketing. So it's very exciting
Mm-hmm.
um, that we're starting to, everything else was organic before, word of mouth. Now we're using, we have a whole plan. So the next 3-year planning, which we're actually working on, it's pipeline of innovation, new products,
Mm-hmm.
a lot that I work on, innovation with Loren.
So you're
So
gonna
we're working,
expand your SKU portfolio.
so we're going to expand our SKU portfolio. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, into other products. Can't tell you though.
Okay, surprise.
Right.
What are the major challenges that you have today? What is keeping you at night?
Well, as a team, because it's really, we become a bigger team. We were originally, just 5 people. Now we're almost up to 10. So we just hired our CFO. We hired a VP of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're keep on looking for other positions to really build a very strong team that's very passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And so our plans are really to come up with a plan for the next 3 years. I mean, we would like to be $100 million company in 3 years, and I think we can do it.
I see. Nice. Currently it is, was it 20 million? Let me look at that.
Revenues, yes.
Right.
We're closer to 22 revenues.
I want to talk a bit about sustainability now.
Yes, please.
You use sustainably sourced palm oil, which grabbed my attention immediately, and it made me a comeback customer because I care about it. For those who are not familiar with the issue, palm oil production is a significant source of greenhouse gas emissions because many palm oil farms are created by destroying rainforests. So not using palm oil or using sustainably sourced palm oil is probably the single most important thing that a food company can do to reduce its environmental impact. Your cookies are also plant-based. Again, for those who are not who don't know this, vegetarian diet is much better for the environment because simply because meat production is not very resource efficient, so which emits more greenhouse gases. Anybody who wants to learn more about this, please take my course next semester. So my question is, how did you come to this decision, meaning using sustainably sourced palm oil or using all plant-based ingredients? Is being green part of your business strategy?
It is our strategy, yes, of course. It started out with Lauren's passion. She wanted to be clean and good for you, and that was really, very important to her. So as I said, it's been a process. We weren't soy free. Now we're soy free. We eliminated some gum because it had corn derivatives in it, and our customers said they don't want that. They can't have that. So we are constantly looking to, better and be more sustainable. Obviously, one of the issues that we have is our packaging is not recyclable. So that is something that we're not green yet, So that's one of my goals for 2021 is to see if we can get a package that would be recyclable. So we're heading that way. We're not there yet, but we really want to be.
Clean means good for you and good for the planet. That's what it means.
Yes, it does mean that. Yeah.
You also promote, I saw this on your website, more sustainable farming practices. What does that mean? What exactly do you do for that?
Well, being non-GMO, actually we're going through our annual certification as we speak. It's very important that we know where the product is coming from. That is not coming from countries where they mistreat people, or as you said, destroying, forests. So I think that's what we talk about, what we mean. We buy product that has, actually we receive an affidavit from the company to prove that they are sustainable and honest to that. So I think that's sort of what that means, is that we keep up with it. And every year we make sure.
Source your ingredients, that's what it means.
Yeah.
Either through certifications, that's how you verify.
Yeah, I mean, it's a process. It's certifications, and then getting the affidavit from the supplier that they follow the procedures as non-GMO.
I see. So now let's talk a bit about your background. I said earlier that you ran and owned an olive oil business for 30 years. Can you tell us about it? How different was it compared to running a clean cookie company?
Well, it was a different generation of people, I have to say. First of all, I graduated from the business school at BU, and I was hired as a salesperson. My first experience in food industry was selling. So at that time, we were the sole distributors for a brand called Filippo Berry olive oil, which is the largest selling olive oil in America. And it was a startup brand, and they kicked me out the door and they said, go sell. And back then there were very few women in the business. Also the owner said to me, I don't usually hire women because they come and get pregnant and then they leave. So I wasn't going to hear that, and so I got involved in the growing the brand. At that time, olive oil was not as popular as it is today. There weren't so many brands at that time. Now you go to the olive oil section, it's like a sea of olive oil.
Exactly.
So I started my journey in sales, and then I moved up and I got involved in operations, and I traveled to different countries. I visit the factories, I visit the ranches. I got involved with, the government invited me to look at their olive operation. We were also in the olive business. So I was traveling to Morocco, I was traveling to Argentina, and these are countries that did not sell America. So I helped them, bring their olives to America. So I've done a lot. I've done everything across the board, from food service, from retail, from financials, and I was very passionate about it.
So you were both on the sourcing side and on the sales side.
I was on the sourcing and sales side, which is kind of a good combination to have.
Definitely. How would you compare the challenges of that business versus the cookie business in terms of sales?
So the olive business is a commodity business. So it's very price sensitive. Selling a brand is much different. Most of our business was private label. So we were packing other brands.
I see.
We did some branded too. We had, the Filippo Berry brand for many years. But the differences are, the startup piece of it is pretty much similar, but the distribution was logistics was totally different. I was importing product from abroad, so you had to really know how to, get the product here on time, in warehouse, in distribution. So that was a big difference between Sweet Loren. We had many factories. It wasn't just one location. We had different countries. We have different products from different countries. And we had much more products, we had, hundreds of SKUs, where now we just have, under 10. So. that
So in
was
terms of operational complexity, it was more challenging for the olive oil business.
yeah, I
So you
mean,
had more
because
cost pressure, I guess, right? Because
yeah, I mean, we had to worry about, you know, the seasons, you know, the
Mhm.
crop conditions. We had to worry about, you know, crossing the oceans, making sure, you know, the product was in good condition. Then we had to ship it to, at that time, we had at least 15 distribution points. We were shipping all over the country. So it was quite, yeah, it was quite different in terms of, and then eventually we actually opened up a factory in the East Coast to pack olives. So we would bring in bulk olives
I see.
and pack them there. And then, and it really was a great situation because we were only a few factories that did that.
I see. Do you think that it's a better time to launch a food startup now compared to 30 years ago?
Oh, definitely. People are more hungry now because especially with the you know, the plant-based, you know, the plant-based market now is very hot. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of interest in that. So there's a lot of startups looking at doing things like that. There's tremendous amount of startups in the food business. It's
Mm-hmm.
really very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Not like before. It's just like people are really, you know, looking for ways to better their lives, you know, and I think that's what really is so much different. They were not startup businesses. They wouldn't call startup businesses back then.
I see.
I think it's a new term.
So does it make the competition tougher? Like, do you worry about another company coming in
Oh,
tomorrow offering
of
the same?
course. You know,
So,
now that because of COVID, the category is like, when we first started, the category was a sleeper, you know, nobody was doing anything in the category. Now that we're in there, we've opened up everybody's eyes, so everybody wants to get it. Same thing happened with the olive oil business. You
mm-hmm.
know, it was just a few major brands. Now, if you go there, hundreds of brands, hundreds of countries that produce olive oil. I don't think there's enough room in our section, the supermarket, to have so many brands, but there's definitely people, you know, and also there's private label now, you know, supermarkets see that the brands are doing, you know, growing. They say, well, I need to get into this business too. So they start to introduce their own brands.
Did the retailers expand the shelf space allocated to your product?
No,
No, same shelf space.
that's a big challenge now.
Mm.
You know, to gain a size, you lose a size.
So how do you keep up with the demand? Like, do you keep the same level of inventory?
Yes, yeah. The biggest challenge is adding products, you know. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the two number one sellers you can always get in. It's the
Mm-hmm.
other, you know, it's getting, like, we have two flavors, oatmeal, cranberry and sugar cookie, and we have fudgy brownie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very tough to get additional items in. You first have to really prove that your product is selling.
Mm-hmm.
And once your product is selling, then it's a slow growth, you know, to get distribution, because they only have so much space, you know,
Right.
they're going to discontinue someone. They're not going to grow the space. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm right next to the yogurt department,
Right.
you
So
know,
what is your
and the
strategy?
butters.
So you're
Hmm?
gonna keep the not top two items in there. So what is your strategy in terms of getting more shelf space?
Well, you know, building up the story, building up the brand, building up the demand. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the consumers come in, they want Sweet Lawrence. That's really what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Also working with the retailers, you know, to promote the product. And also, you know, having a story of success. I mean, when they see the story of success, you know, the chains that wouldn't speak to us now will speak to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just pursuing, you know, those distributions, you know, adding to the distribution,
Mm-hmm.
growing the distribution, growing the, you know, there's quite a lot of chains we're not in yet, you know. So we
Right.
still have a lot more work to do.
Right. So my final question before I turn it over to the audience, what advice would you give our students? What should they focus on at school, and how can they better prepare themselves for their future jobs and for the job market and for future success?
Um, I think what's really key is to be open-minded, you know, not so, you know, focus on one thing. You have an opportunity at school to try so many things. And don't be afraid to do that. It's so important because what you think you're going to be doing is not what you're going to end up be doing, So this is an opportunity when you're at school to challenge yourself, try different things that you normally wouldn't do. And you have a buffet of options there. Use it, take advantage of it. And then what I would start to do is start to look at, newspapers, stories, articles that you're interested in. Look at the real world, because, school is one thing and then there's the real world. So I think, kind of getting more attuned to that too is really important.
So what about those who want to start a food company? Like, should they go work in one first before starting their own?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, passionate, of course, I keep on repeating that, is so key to a startup. It's not easy. It's really a difficult thing, I think networking is important, joining, entrepreneur clubs, trying to mix in with people, because that kind of helps you talking to people who are also in that same environment. There's hundreds of them out there. People really want to pursue a company, a startup company, need to really, be open to talking to people, asking for help, asking for advice. Don't be afraid of that. That's what you need to do.
I see.
There's a lot of experienced people out there.
Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you.
Let me open up the Q&A box. We have a question from Leah Bushnell. Is Sweet Loren's placed in the frozen gluten-free section or the general cookie dough section? What are the advantages, disadvantages of the section it is in? Do different grocery chains want to categorize Sweet Loren's differently?
So originally, before my time, Sweet Loren's was in the frozen department, and it just it wasn't the go place for cookie dough. The go place is in the go-to place is in the dairy section, the supermarket, where you have the Pillsbury and the Nestle. So it's in the refrigerator section.
I see. So let me see if we have. Is there a special section for gluten-free products?
So actually, in this category, it's all the same. It's all combined.
I see.
In some categories, you will find special sections for gluten-free. No, this is in the dairy department with all the other options, besides gluten-free.
So basically, dairy department is better than the frozen section. So how did you go about changing it? Did you bring it up to the retailers yourself, or did they suggest changing it?
Well, I think, this Loren really said that it's, where is it selling? Why create something different that's already successful? People are when they buy cookie dough, go to the dairy section where the Pillsbury, that's where it's located. If you're in the frozen department, nobody's going to be looking for you there, and that's what happened. So this is, if you're going to buy cookie dough, this is where most people know, that's where you buy it.
So it's the same thing across all different types of retailers.
It's an all, yeah. Now, a lot of things are changing now. They're becoming, you can see the inclusions. A lot of the ice cream companies are putting cookie dough in their ice cream. So now, it's kind of changing, because now you can get a cookie dough in an ice cream. People are also making cookie dough bites. Frozen bites. So it's sort of now, frozen's becoming hot again in the industry. And so, so we're kind of looking at it now. Maybe it's a lot of it's timing, we came at a good timing. Our product, is really, plant-based. Is how this is a hot subject in the industry. So our timing was also timing was very important. If we came 10 years ago, we might have not been successful.
I see. So luck is important, which we can.
Luck is important, yes.
Good luck to everyone. What are the marketing strategies and marketing channels for Sweet Loren's? This is another question. from the
Well,
alumna?
as I said, the biggest challenge is brand awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've kind of really, stepped aside now and really, that's why we hired a VP of marketing. We have a director of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're building our marketing team and we're testing different waters now.
Mm-hmm.
We actually shot a commercial, a TV commercial.
Mm.
We're looking at doing some cable shows with chefs and, things like that.
Mhm,
We're
mhm,
looking at more Instacart. We're looking at social media. We want to grow our, our Instagram or Facebook. So we're really, but the number one thing we had to do first is like, who is our customer? Who's buying our product?
mhm,
So we actually just recently, and we're in the middle of doing the research now, who our product is. So then we can be smarter, we can really figure out who we're going after, who's really going to, bring, it to the market. And so that's one thing you have to do first is just find out who your customer is.
So how would you categorize the customer? Like
Um,
characterize. Like for instance, I'm a green consumer. That's how I categorize myself. Like how would you categorize
well, I
general?
would say educated,
Educated, okay.
with a family, people who want to buy, better for you products.
Mm-hmm.
Is really very important.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, I would say educated, mostly educated.
All right. Thank you. We have a question from Emily Bigelow. What is your advice for female entrepreneurs considering venture or angel investment? Was venture funding something you pursued with either the olive oil company or Sweet Loren's?
Not with the olive oil company, with Sweet Loren's. So what's really, Loren started out with just seed investors, mostly family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
We're a very fortunate startup company. We thought we would have to raise, but we're in a situation where we don't. So why do it at this point? And if we do, we want to bring in partners that really, contribute, not just to, become partners, but really contribute to really help us grow. So we want to be very careful when we do that. We're not pressured to do it. Eventually, as we grow, we'll probably look at the option of doing it, but we're self-funded ourselves.
I see. What advice would you give female entrepreneurs? Should they?
Well, there's a lot more out there. You're not the only one anymore. Just, I would say, don't be afraid to speak to people, network,
Mhm.
just go with your passion. I mean, just be who you are and things will come together.
Mhm. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. How does Sweet Loren deal with the shelf space if it is not placed in the gluten-free section or plant-based section for a customer who does not have enough information about Sweet Loren that it is the healthier option?
Well, that comes down to marketing. That's the issue of brand awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Not all supermarkets have gluten-free sections either.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on the retailer.
Mm-hmm.
And also gluten-free sections. I mean, I don't know if there's many refrigerated gluten-free sections, mostly the gluten-free sections in the grocery aisle. So this is in the refrigerator section. So, but we want to be all for everyone. We don't want to just, I mean, yes, we have a niche of the allergen-free community, but we want people who aren't have allergen issues. We want people who are
For
just
example.
right. So we don't want to be locked in there. We really want to give the opportunity for everybody to have the accessibility of trying our product.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We're getting more questions. How do you plan on retaining new buyers as a result of Covet? How has Covet impacted your trade utilization strategy?
Our trade, what was that?
Utilization strategy.
So, COVID, and I hope I'm answering this question right. As I said, COVID really helped bring more brand awareness to us, because in a funny way, I mean, it's not funny, the whole situation is just tough for everyone. But in our category, our competitors were out of product. So they came there with Sweet Loren. So a lot of people just tried it. And we've had such increased social media activity. People, I just found your product. It's so good. I can't believe I didn't know about Sweet Loren's. Well, that's good and bad, because we really want to find a way to get these people to know about our brand. We want to be the next Betty Crocker of plant-based product. We want everybody to recognize Sweet Loren, that it stands for something good. So when we go down the pipeline, we add new products, somebody's gonna say, that's Sweet Loren's, they know what we stand for.
Mhm.
So that is crucial to growing the brand, but we need to focus right now on our existing products. We need to make that stronger. So that's our biggest challenge.
Mhm. So the next question, the food startup space is known to be incredibly competitive. Where do you see opportunities and perhaps some product gaps in the clean eating space?
So we call it like white space in our industry. Look for a category that's controlled by the big companies that take over a lot of the grocery section. And that's why the startups are doing well, because that's what the community, that's what the retailers are looking for now. They're looking for the clean, plant-based products.
Mhm.
And only the startups can't do it. The big companies can't do it. It's not in their DNA to do it.
Why
You
not?
know?
I mean, can't they? They do a lot of
I
innovation.
think they're trying now. I think they're doing more and more,
Mhm.
but it's not, it's not a perfect journey. It has a lot of ups and downs, and you have to start. And also, a lot of these big companies have manufacturing plants, that they have to, they just can't put a gluten-free line in. It's not that easy.
But
You have
for
to.
innovation items, they usually do work with co-packers before,
Yes, they
when
do.
they're
They
trying
do.
if it's gonna work or not.
Yeah, that's true. They do work with co-packers, and
Are there a lot of examples, this is my question, of these big companies acquiring these small plant-based focused companies? And is this
right.
something that you envision yourself for Sweet
Well,
Loren?
I'm not, that's up to the founder and the
Uh-huh.
CEO. But sure, who knows? We have a lot to do before we do that.
Has it happened? Like, do you know any good examples of
Has it
acquisition?
happened to us? No.
No, not to you. Do you know any successful startups who were acquired by big companies in the plant-based?
Um, I'm trying to think. I mean, yeah, I do. I've heard good and bad stories
Mm-hmm.
about it. I've heard situations where they bought a startup company and they just
Killed
totally
it.
ruined it.
Mhm.
I've heard success stories, It just depends who's buying you and what their goals are.
Mhm.
So yeah, sure, I've seen both sides of it.
It was a great pleasure to host you. How can
Yeah.
they stay in touch with you if we have students who wants to connect with you about their
Yeah, so just have them contact me through my email,
mhm.
uh, lucy@sweetlorens.com.
Okay. Did you guys get
And
that?
I'm here 24/7. So if anybody has any questions or thinking of, starting a startup business in the food industry, I'd be happy to help.
Thank you so much. This is
Thank
great.
you. Thank you so much.